To turn on your pump, you want the rear battery switch. The truck does not have to be on to run this pump. 1618 has 900 gallons of water. With the back battery on up in the cab, here at the pump, in the lower right corner of it, are 3 switches. That switch would turn on these lights. That one does work. This switch here engages your pump in the fuel pump. You can hear it click. You'll notice the tank lights come on. You'll notice as well 1618 has tank lights on the side of the truck. To start the pump, once this switch is engaged, this is the choke, this is the throttle. And the start button. To turn off, simply turn the switch. You want to make sure that it has fuel. This is the fuel tank. It uses regular fuel. Make sure there's fuel in the tank. The foam system here is not hooked up, so it does not work. The pump is an 18 horsepower, 150 GPM pump. It's a brush fire pump. To check the oil, come to the right side of the pump with the dipstick right here. There is a ladder on the back of 1618, so you can climb to the top. To do it, just pull this pin, pull this lever out, and it just folds over. To engage hose lines, you'll notice, just follow the piping as you go from the pump over. Right here is recirculate. The handles are always in the direction of the flow of water. So right now that recirculating valve is about half cracked. So water would come out of the pump, come over, back down, and into the tank to recirculate. At the bottom of this, you'll notice the booster reel, and it is labeled. It is on, and if you follow that, it goes up to the top to the booster reels. The next one up, and it currently is disconnected, but that's the front jump line. This is the front bumper of 1618. This is where the front jump line would be and where it would hook up. Next, straight across from the front jump line right here is the rear discharge. And this is where we would hook up. There's a 150-foot line of 1 3/4 inch on the back of 1618. We would hook it up to the rear discharge. On the right side, you have a female connection. This is an intake and goes straight into the tank. Down below, we have a second intake, but notice that is a male discharge connection. But this is an intake. If you follow this, there is a handle here. This one goes to the tank. This side, which this main handle right here is closed, goes to the pump. So what happens is the tank feeds the pump through here, comes around, and goes into the back of the pump. That's how the pump is fed from the tank. So that handle must be on. This handle should be off at all times unless you're using this rear intake, and I'll explain. This intake was set up as a discharge so you could actually hook up hard suction to it, to a low level strainer, so that you could actually fill the tank from a creek or a pond. You also have a second option with this. If we had a structure fire down a long rural driveway that the engine could not fit in, you could use 1618 to go down the drive, run a 2.5-inch line or a 3-inch line to the back of 18 and pump through the pump to charge the 1 3/4 hand line out of the rear discharge. You would never want to use a brush pump inside a structure fire. Essentially, 1618 becomes a manifold. For this setup, you'll need your double female, so you can hook the 2.5 or 3-inch hose to the rear. This would be running the hose the length of the driveway, and the engine at the end of the driveway or the tanker would be pumping that line, pumping the water through 1618, through the piping and out the hose. While on the scene of a fire, if you needed to give your 900 gallons to an engine or a tanker, this is how we would do that. You're going to grab your increaser from the right rear compartment. That's also where the double female is. You're going to put your increaser on the rear discharge. Now, instead of 1618 receiving water through the rear, you're now giving water. The hose is in reverse from the increaser. You'll do the female end, and however long your hose is, this will go the male end to the intake of the apparatus. So you can give your 900 gallons of water to a fire apparatus on scene. Coming back to the recirculating valve, I want to stress the importance of keeping that cracked so you're constantly recirculating water, otherwise you will burn up the pump if a hose line is not flowing. We talked about the booster line coming up and over. It follows that pipe down to feed the booster lines. Currently, only the left side has a line on it. The motor does work. You have 100 feet of booster line. The nozzle is attached to the side, and the reel button is right over here to the left. Right there is the button for the reel. Do the best you can to feed it straight. If it knots up, it will have a hard time coming out. A better overview of drafting with 1618. You would hook up your low strainer, your hard suction to the truck. Again, just a quick review. You have two lines here. This line is coming from the tank and then comes around and feeds the pump. So for this to work, think of this like a tank to pump. Tank to pump. This has to go into a circle to create a Venturi effect to suction through the hard suction. In order to do that, the pump has to send water somewhere. You would want the tank recirculating valve all the way open. Remember, the handle is the direction of water. This would bring water from the pump back to the tank, feeding from the tank back to the pump in that circle fashion, and that should create your Venturi effect to bring water up. Before turning on the pump, you'll probably need to open this valve again, let water start dumping down your hard suction if you have it, and then start your pump. So when you're drafting, both of these handles will be open while your tank is filling. A better overview, if you were using 1618 as a manifold, say on a structure fire, or maybe an engine's just feeding this. You want your double female. Again, you have the male end of the hose coming in. You would want to open your valve, and to fill your tank, you're going to fill your tank with this open. If you're using it as a manifold, you want to turn your tank to pump off and allow the water to come straight in, up through the piping, and feeding the hose line. Don't forget, you do not have to fill your tank this way. There is a direct tank fill to the right.